my name is Ella, and guess what time it is? It's cookie time! This year I'm planning on selling 200 boxes or more. Please help supporting my troop by buying 1 boxes or maybe even 2 if you want to. My troop is planning on going on an exciting trip and helping my community. Please help support me by buying 1 box or more. Bye!
What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for January 22nd, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Hump Day to everyone out there. It's a cold Wednesday morning. We got a big show today, jam-packed. But first, I haven't done this in a while. We may have some new listeners out there, so if you are new within the past month or so, welcome. Glad to have you. Always try to have a little bit of fun on here and teach you something. Always a work in progress, trying to kind of tweak things and get where we need to be. But one thing's for sure, you will get accurate information. You will get your daily Philly sports history lesson, and you will have some fun. So be sure to hit the subscribe button wherever you are. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Be sure also to follow me and subscribe on my social media, Twitter and TikTok at Jimbo_Mont, on Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Like I said, the YouTube channel, that's the big thing. Once we get that algorithm figured out, we will be good. But welcome. And as Ella mentioned at the beginning, be sure to buy your Girl Scout cookies from Ella. You're going to buy them anyway. Why not support her? The link is in the description wherever you're watching or reading this. Hopefully you're not reading this. Wherever you're watching or listening to this, click the link. It takes you right there where you need to do it. And if you don't want to buy cookies, if you're still on your New Year's diet, that's okay. You can donate too. And then be sure to go check out our friends over at the On Pattison newsletter. It's a great newsletter delivered every day to your inbox. Great Philly sports coverage. We're featured in there a couple times a week for this day in Philly sports history. So go show them some love as well. All right, so let's get into this. And first and foremost, good win for the Flyers yesterday. 2-1 in overtime over the Red Wings. Like I said, teams that they're bunched together with in the playoff hunt, these are the games you got to get points for. And 2-1, that's 6 straight games now with a point for the Flyers. They've won 3 in a row. Joel Farabee had a goal and assist, and Rasmus Ristolainen, I think I got his name right there, scored the overtime game winner, as they are right there now in the thick of things. They're bunched with a bunch of teams as of this morning for that final wild card spot, 2 points back. They head up to New York to take on the Rangers tomorrow, who they are currently tied with in the standings. So at this point, the games are starting to get bigger, and it's not like you have the Sixers to worry about. So good win for the Flyers. We'll take it. That's 6 straight games with a point. They're starting to play together. I don't know. Trade deadline's coming up. Not sure what they're going to do. I know Danny Briere and Keith Jones keep saying they're in a rebuild. However, if you're there, you're there. You want to keep one eye on the future, but it would be a great boost to this team if they can make a playoff run this year. And then on the other side of the coin, you have the Sixers. 144-109. They lost to the Nuggets last night, and I obviously it's West Coast. Thankfully, many of us didn't see it, but it could have been one of the worst performances they've had all year. Just no energy, no effort. Nick Nurse went off last night. I don't know if it's frustration at the team, the injuries, a combination of both, but just went off on their lack of effort, their lack of being prepared to play. They literally got punched in the mouth and never really recovered. That's 7 straight losses now for the Sixers. They're hovering right around that 6th lottery pick, which is where they need to be. However, if things continue the way they are, I don't see any way where they won't get it. But because of the state of the NBA, they're also not that far out of the play-in tournament either. It's just Brutal. Absolutely brutal. And it doesn't get any easier. Friday night at home against the Cavs. I'm sure you can get plenty of good tickets on the secondary market right now, but just a piss poor performance by the Sixers yesterday. Zero effort, zero energy, and it just seems they're trending in the wrong direction. Snowballing in the wrong direction. Freight train in the wrong direction. Whatever analogy you want to use, that's what the Sixers are doing. But Philly Goat's got you covered. You want to express, and we talked about this the other day. A lot of people the Sixers have become irrelevant. But if you're still pissed off and want to express your frustration at the team, Philly Goat has all kinds of different combinations of shirts for you that will express your displeasure from the disgruntled or angry Sixers fan. I have a toxic relationship with Philly sports, whatever. They got you covered. You got to go check out their site and see what they got. Be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. And then go check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things going on with their Sports Fan Network. That is available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. All right. We have some Phillies news. And might be one of these things where this take is going to piss some people off, and that's okay. Hopefully we can get some debate going on the Back to the Future voice and text line. But Billy Wagner was elected into the Hall of Fame yesterday. I believe it was his 10th and final try. And a lot of people are like, former Philly, Billy Wagner, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. He only spent 2 years in Philly. I look at him more as like an Astro or a Met. But he did play 2 years in Philly, had 59 saves, was solid for them for 2 years. However, it's the other stuff that I did read that he has some regrets or whatever about it. But he was not a good teammate. Didn't get along. I read an article yesterday that he and Pat Burrell got into it. This was from back in the early 2000s. He basically, I don't know if he quit, but you got to question his effort. But when they were in the middle of a pennant race for a wild card spot in those early 2000 days under Larry Boa, basically said, we got no shot. And, I mean, even if you think that, because there's been times we probably thought during that time frame they have no shot, but you're in the middle of it. You can't do that, especially as the team's closer. But it's just you can't do that. He bashed Philly fans. He was like, these are people I laugh at. Just not a good look anytime you go after the fans as a player. And then double down on it the way he did. And then, of course, he signed with the Mets. So it is what it is. Forgive me if I'm not celebrating. It was the same thing for me with Scott Rowland. Great. Congrats, Billy. But I'm not going to be doing backflips or buying a celebratory cake or going out for drinks because Billy Wagner's in the Hall of Fame. Basically, who cares? Like, he's not a Philly. Played 2 years here in between stints with the Mets and Astros. And those are the two teams I associate him most with. So, yes, technically he's a former Philly, but he's not a Philly in the Hall of Fame. Just like Scott Rowland. I could be done with it. However, we are going to do a little bit of a bonus forgiveness, and I'm going to forgive Billy Wagner. Apparently, he had regrets and felt remorse for his time here in Philly. So, you know what? I'll be the bigger person. Don't want to hang on to that negativity or the energy. This is not our forgiveness for today. And honestly, Billy Wagner just missed being on this list for us in January anyway. But you know what, Billy? I'll forgive you for ripping the fans. I'll forgive you for saying the team had no shot. Forgive you for coming in here with all the hype after the trade and then signing with the Mutts. I'll forgive you for that. It's NFC Championship week. I cannot. We can't take any chances. So we will forgive Billy Wagner. Do feel a little bit better. But again, I'm not going to go do backflips because he's in the Hall of Fame. The other news out of the Hall of Fame, though, were the other Phillies that really you would associate with the Phillies and where they are on the list. And this is where I'm going to piss some of you off today. Chase Utley got 39.8% of the vote. You need 75 to be considered. He went up from last year. Bobby Abreu got 19.5%. And I think we've talked a lot about it. I think Bobby Abreu is one of those guys who probably gets punished for his demeanor. Kind of just a laid-back sort of go-with-the-flow type guy. He's put up some incredible numbers. There are some out there, including my brother, who will argue this all day, that Bobby Abreu's numbers are hollow. It's not his fault. He was on some shitty teams. But to me, the biggest surprise and the biggest travesty is that Jimmy Rollins only got 18% of the vote. And look, I like Chase Utley. Do not get me wrong. One of my favorite players. But in what world is Chase Utley getting double the amount of votes than Jimmy Rollins? And I know the Hall of Fame is all about numbers and where you stack up against others in your position. But Jimmy Rollins has better numbers than a lot of the shortstops in the Hall of Fame. Jimmy Rollins, overall, was a better player, I feel, than Chase Utley. And that's where I think I'm going to piss some people off, and that's fine. Let's debate it. But look at the overall game of Jimmy Rollins versus the overall game of Chase Utley. And how is Chase Utley? Please make the argument to me. Convince me that Chase Utley should be getting double the amount of votes for the Hall of Fame than Jimmy Rollins. And explain to me how Jimmy Rollins continues to fall down on that list. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And is it like Chase Utley, Hall of Very Good? I think Bobby Abreu has a better chance and a better case to get into the Hall of Fame than what Chase Utley does. And that's not a knock against Chase. Like I said, I like Chase. But, I mean, explain to me. Make it make sense to me. Because to me, it doesn't make any sense. And I love J-Roll too. But top to bottom, take the full career, everything they've did, offense, defense, speed, clutch, even injuries. Chase missed a lot of time with injuries, and I know that's not necessarily his fault. And maybe if he didn't have those injuries, his case would be stronger. But I just don't get and understand what planet that Chase Utley gets double the amount of votes than Jimmy Rollins. Please make it make sense. And honestly, to me, I think Donovan McNabb, I know it's a different sport. Donovan McNabb has a better Hall of Fame case than Chase Utley. And I don't think McNabb gets in. I could certainly see the argument, but I think McNabb is right on the cusp of that. I think Chase Utley is a level down than that. I would put Bobby Abreu above Chase Utley. But for Jimmy Rollins, the disrespect that he's getting, I don't know. Make it make sense. And I hopefully, please, reach out to the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Let me know your thoughts on this, but I don't understand it. I don't see it. Please, make it make sense to me that Chase Utley is getting double the amount of votes than Jimmy Rollins. Please, be my guest. Let's have some fun with this on a cold Wednesday. All right, that's not the official question of the day, but let's go back and recap yesterday's question of the day. I asked you on Tuesday, what was your confidence level heading into Sunday's game? High, medium, or low? Pretty much all over the board, but 46% of you said your confidence is high, and I respect that, and I need that going into this game because I'm not quite there yet. I'm still in the middle range, but thank you, as always, for everyone who participated in the question of the day. We will have another one later in the show. Now, speaking of Sunday, we should find out a lot today when they practice and the injury report comes out. It does seem as though I heard a report from one of the guys on Channel 6 that both Jalen Hurts and Quinyon Mitchell will play. And I do think that is reflected in the line. The line jumped from 4.5 to 6. So that kind of tells me that the smart money was coming in on the Eagles minus 4.5 with that news, and Vegas had to adjust to make it 6. But we will find out more today. The other interesting tidbit that came out is I don't think it'll be this week, but he didn't come right out and say not this week. But Brandon Graham said don't be surprised if he suits up this week, but was very, very non-committal. And they tried to push him. Well, if they do win this week, and he's like, I'm just worried about this game, there is still an outside chance that Brandon Graham will play in the Super Bowl, which would be what a great just come full circle way to ride off into the sunset if that is true. But we'll know more today when the official injury report comes out. Still lots of talk about Jalen and can they win without him being able to run, depending on his leg. And look, I don't know. Like, I just, it's another one of those things like the whole Jimmy Rollins thing. I don't get. Like, you have, hands down, the best running back in the game. I will put Saquon Barkley over Derrick Henry just with the way this year has played out. And he's been dominant. So if you don't need to pass, why are you going to call passes just for the sake of calling passes? And we've seen all year that when Jalen has had to make throws in games, even going back before the bye to the Saints game, he's made the throws. Like, I just don't, like, this is, and I mentioned this in the stands the other day to my brother. For years, all we wanted in Philly was a team with a dominant defense that ran the ball way more than they passed. Guess what, Philly? What do we have this year? A championship-level defense with a team that would much rather run the ball than pass the ball. Like, and that's where I get frustrated sometimes with Philly fans. Like, what more do you want? It's working. We're right where we want to be. If you'd have said after the Tampa Bay game when we were 2-2, if you'd have said, don't worry, in a few months we will be in the NFC Championship game at home against the Washington Commanders with a chance to go to the Super Bowl, we would have jumped at the opportunity. 3 weeks ago, before the playoffs started, if you'd have said you'll be in the NFC Championship game at home against the Washington Commanders, we would have jumped at the opportunity. Last week, we were like, we want the opportunity for the NFC Championship game at home against the Washington Commanders. We got it. Be grateful for what we got. Like, take the blinders off and see that this is what 25 years, 30 years, we've wanted this team specifically. Great defense, running the ball. We got it. We got an NFC Championship game at home against a divisional opponent. Yes, that's the wild card in all this because they're divisional, but it works both ways. Like, yes, Jaden Daniels is a rookie, but it works both ways. We know their tendencies. We see them twice a year. So maybe I'm just talking myself now. I just moved from medium to high in the confidence level. But this is where we wanted to be all year. We're here. Let's see how today plays out with the injuries, and then we'll start looking ahead and breaking down X's and O's tomorrow. But it does lead to the question of the day. I have the bird wing shoes from Philly Goat that I have not worn yet for superstitious reasons. They match perfectly with my Brandon Graham Kelly Green jersey. However, the Packers game, I wore my Wilbert Montgomery jersey. Had to with my Nike Air Max Eagle shoes. Wore the same thing last week. I gotta go with the same outfit for this week. So that just got me thinking. Like, I have one friend in my season ticket group who, for health reasons and various other things, hasn't been able to make it to a game this year. Debated coming down for the championship game, but thought better of it because he hasn't been to a game. He didn't want to mess up the vibes and the good karma and things like that. So what are your superstitions? What are your Eagles superstitions? I got so many. Like, I wear the same, I have the same Friday, all through the playoffs. I have the same Friday outfit. And then obviously this week I'm wearing the same jersey, hat, shoe combo. Actually, even jeans. I made sure I watched the jeans that I wore in the snow so I can make sure I wore them again Sunday. There's been times this year where I've changed my sweatshirt in the middle of a game and it's brought them good luck. So tell me your Eagles game day superstitions. There's so many of them. Do you have a specific spot you watch, specific people you watch, you have meals, whatever it is? Let me know your Eagles game day superstitions as we gear up for the NFC Championship game. 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. But I'm anxious to see. This ought to be fun. What are your Eagles game day superstitions? All right, today we're going to go back to 1992. And on this day in 1992, the Sixers beat the Knicks 119-109 down at the Spectrum. And it was the Charles Barkley show. He was dominant from start to finish, had 37 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. He was all over the court. And those 14 rebounds, he passed not only Wilt Chamberlain, but also Billy Cunningham to become the Sixers' all-time leader in rebounds with 6,642. Now, that includes only their time in Philadelphia. If you include the franchise, back when they were the Syracuse Nationals, that's not them, but this is from the time they moved to Philly in 1963. Those numbers, Charles Barkley is the Sixers' all-time leading rebounders, but you know I wasn't going to leave it at that. If you like to keep score at home like I do, the Sixers franchise, that includes their time in Syracuse, all-time leader in rebounds, is Dolph Schayes with 11,000. A little over 11,000. Red Kerr is number 2 with about 9,500. And then Chuck is number 3 with just over 7,000. So you know I wasn't going to let you down with that. But that 92 season was the year that Barkley wore number 32 in honor of Magic Johnson. Became disgruntled. Not really just that season. The couple seasons prior to that, just with the lack of the Sixers putting a good team around him. And he was traded after the season, leading to the dark days of the Sixers pre-Allen Iverson. But on this day, back in 1992, Sixers beat the Knicks 119-109. Charles Barkley had himself a game, 37 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals, passing Wilt Chamberlain and Billy Cunningham to be the Sixers' all-time leading rebounder. Not the franchise, just from when they moved to Philly, but he's number 3 all-time in the Syracuse Nationals / Philadelphia 76ers all-time rebounding list. All right, finally today, still going to pull out some big guns. We already did the bonus forgiveness with Billy Wagner, but this one, if you're a Flyers fan, make sure you're holding on to something. Today we're going to forgive Scott Stevens. And Stevens was the captain of those Devil teams who were the big rivals of the Flyers in the late 90s, early 2000s. Beat the Flyers quite a few times in the playoffs, won 3 Stanley Cups. Always had a battle with Eric Lindros dating back to his time with the Washington Capitals. So Scott Stevens, being a Philly sports villain, goes back to before he was even with the Devils. However, you all know where I'm going to go with this. The most lasting image and memory we have of Scott Stevens was his brutal monster check on Eric Lindros as he crossed over the blue line in Game 7 of the 2000 Eastern Conference Finals. In the first period, the Devils were up 1-0, but Lindros had just missed 2 months, had just come back in Game 6 to get some of the rust off, and it was Game 7, winner take all, winner goes to the Stanley Cup. Unfortunately, it was all downhill after Lindros got knocked out of the game. And the Flyers, to their credit, battled back but lost 2-1. The Devils completed that comeback to go on to the Stanley Cup Finals. A Stanley Cup Finals that they actually won, too. So that could have been the Flyers' year. So Scott Stevens, I forgive you for being a Philadelphia sports and Flyers villain, going back to your days with the Capitals. I forgive you for ending the Eric Lindros era in Philly, which, by the way, by all accounts, that hit was not illegal. It was a legal hit. He didn't get called for a penalty on that. It probably would have cost him like 10 games in today's NHL, in today's sports landscape. But back then, it was perfectly legal. Didn't do anything wrong. He did express remorse and felt bad about it, and has become like a proponent for concussion research and CTE and things like that. So he learned from it. But Scott, I forgive you for that. I forgive you for winning 3 cups with the Devils while the Flyers were trying to win just 1. But most importantly, I forgive you for that hit on Eric Lindros. I remember I was so invested in that 2000 Flyers run. That was the 5 overtime game against the I believe that was the 5 overtime game against the Penguins year and everything. But man, 3-1 Eastern Conference Finals, home field or home ice advantage, and you can't get it done. And then to have it end in Game 7 with Lindros lying in a fetal position from taking that monster hit, that's tough. But Scott, I forgive you. We need this good karma. I feel better. Get that negativity out of here. Get those good vibes in. And truthfully, it did end up working out at the end. Even though this was the end of Eric Lindros in Philly, he and Bobby Clark made up. They retired his number, and now he is still around and a member of the Flyers alumni organization. But Scott Stevens, I forgive you. On this day in 1992, Sixers beat the Knicks 119-109. Charles Barkley with 37 points, 14 rebounds, becoming the Sixers' all-time leading rebounder. And then got traded away in the offseason due to lack of effort by the front office of the Sixers. Be sure to let me know what your Eagles game day superstitions are. I would love it. Is it a meal, a special spot you watch? Do you watch with certain people? Let's have some fun with this. Mine varies depending on what the team's doing. If they go on a losing streak, I'll switch it up. But I cannot jinx it. Wilbur Montgomery. Excuse me, I almost made it through the whole show without coughing. Wilbur Montgomery. I hate to even put this out in the ethos, but Wilbur Montgomery is 4-0 in the postseason. I wore it to the 2017 NFC Championship game. I'm sorry, the 2022 NFC Championship game. Or actually, no, I guess it's 5-0. I wore it in the 2017 NFC Championship game, the 2022 NFC Championship game, and then these. Yeah, my math is good. 4-0, 2 NFC Championship games, 2 playoff games this year. Math is not my strong suit this early in the morning. But what are your superstitions? Back to the fact and the matter at hand. 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest, let me know what you're thinking. And we will start getting into the X's and O's, and we'll have some updates, hopefully positive, on the injury news for the Eagles tomorrow. Sixers, we're forced to talk about them because they're a Philly sports team. But let's go Flyers. Let's keep that momentum rolling. If you're a new listener, again, welcome. We're glad to have you. Buy the Girl Scout cookies. Go check out Philly Goat, and be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to get 10% off your order. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for January 22nd, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Stay warm today, everybody. Go have yourselves a Wednesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.